Pick up that jug sitting next to your washing machine right now and feel how heavy it is. Most of that weight, the part making your arm ache carrying it in from the car, is plain water. Dyed blue, dyed green, whatever color they picked that year, with a strong manufactured smell mixed through it. My name is Caleb Miller. I'm Amish. I farm in Holmes County, Ohio, and my wife has never bought a jug of that colored water for this house. What she mixes up once, in one sitting, carries this family's wash the better part of a year. I'm going to give you the exact way she does it today, and I'm going to tell you honestly why she chose the ingredients she chose, because there's a common version of this floating around out there that I don't use in this house, and I want to explain why, before you go buy the wrong box at the store. Here's where I'll start, because once you understand this part, the rest makes sense on its own. A bottle of name-brand detergent is mostly water, dye, and fragrance. The part that actually cleans anything is a small slice of what you're paying for. And that fragrance isn't there by accident. It's there because your nose has been trained, over years of every wash smelling the same manufactured way, to believe that smell means clean. Pull a shirt out of the dryer, breathe it in, and if it smells like whatever they named that scent, your mind says done. You didn't test anything. You smelled a perfume and called it proof. My grandmother used to tell my mother something along these lines, and my mother's told it to me more than once. She'd say clean isn't a smell you buy. Clean is just dirt gone. Took me a long while to really sit with that one, and I'll admit, as a younger man, I used to think the perfume in a bought detergent meant something. My mother never once used a store bottle in this house, and I remember thinking our sheets smelled like nothing at all. Not bad, just nothing. It wasn't until I was grown and doing my own wash for the first time, in a house we'd bought closer to town, that I understood what nothing actually smelled like standing next to a store bottle. And nothing was better. Now, the actual chemistry of getting clothes clean asks for very little. You need something alkaline to lift oil and grease off the fibers. You need something to handle whatever minerals are in your water so the cleaning agent can actually do its work instead of fighting your tap. And you need a plain soap to grab hold of the dirt and let the water carry it away. 3 jobs. That's the whole list. Here's the part I want to be straight with you about early, because I know some of you have already looked this up online. There's a common homemade recipe going around that pairs washing soda with borax. It works. Plenty of families use it, and I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. But we don't use borax in this house, and here's my honest reason why. Not because I think anyone using it is doing something wrong, but because we've got young ones underfoot most days. And borax is genuinely harmful if a small child or a family dog gets into it and swallows any real amount. It's not about the wash itself. It's about what sits on a shelf for months at a time in a house full of kids who open things they shouldn't. My wife found something that does nearly the same job without that particular worry. The substitute is plain Epsom salt. You'll find it in the pharmacy aisle of almost any store. It's the same stuff folks soak their feet in, safe enough that it's used directly on skin, and safe enough that a small accidental taste isn't the emergency it would be with borax. It handles the minerals in your water in much the same way, softening things so your soap can actually work instead of fighting a losing battle against hard water. I'll be honest with you, in genuinely hard water, in the worst of it, it doesn't quite match what borax does. If your water's extremely hard, you may want to add a splash of white vinegar to your rinse cycle to help finish the job. For most homes, though, it handles things well on its own. Now, here's a question worth sitting with for a second, while I finish explaining the last piece. Do you actually know if your water's hard or soft? A lot of folks never check. If you've noticed a white crust building up around your faucets, or your soap never quite works up a lather the way you expect, that's hard water talking to you, and it's worth knowing before you start any of this. Alongside the Epsom salt, you'll want washing soda, the actual workhorse of this whole thing. Not baking soda. They're related, but they don't behave the same way. Washing soda is what raises the water's pH high enough to break grease and body oil loose from fabric. My father used to keep a box of this on a shelf in the wash house long before I ever thought to ask what it actually did. And it wasn't until I was maybe 15 that he explained the whole reason behind it to me while we were doing the wash together one Saturday morning. And the third piece, a plain bar of soap, grated down fine. Doesn't need a fancy name on the wrapper. The simplest bar you can find does the job. Here's how my wife actually puts this together, all at once, in a 5-gallon bucket, the same size bucket you'd get from any hardware store. Grate 3 bars of plain soap fine on a kitchen grater. You're aiming for about 3 cups of grated soap. In a large bowl, combine that with 4 cups of washing soda and 2 cups of Epsom salt. Stir it all together dry until it's evenly mixed, then transfer the whole mixture into your bucket. No stove, no melting, no waiting overnight for anything to set into a gel. It's ready to use the moment it's mixed. You use about 2 tablespoons per load for a standard machine, closer to 1 tablespoon for a high-efficiency front loader, since those run on so little water. Keep the bucket sealed with its lid near your machine, and it holds for the better part of a year without any trouble. One thing worth mentioning, because a few of you will ask, this mixture doesn't clump the way you might expect a dry powder sitting in a bucket for months to clump. As long as the lid stays on tight and moisture doesn't get in, it stays loose and scoopable the whole time. Now let's talk about what this actually costs, because I want to give you real numbers, not numbers picked to sound impressive. 3 bars of plain soap run you around $6 to $7 total. The washing soda, in the larger box, runs about $8 to $9 for enough to fill this recipe with plenty left in the box. The Epsom salt, in a large bag, runs around $7 to $8. All told, you're looking at somewhere between $22 and $24 to fill that bucket. And that bucket carries a family of 4 or 5 through roughly 250 to 300 loads of wash, which for most households is close to a full year. Compare that to store-bought detergent. A typical family buys 4 to 5 jugs a year at $20 to $25 apiece, somewhere around $90 to $125 annually. What my wife makes costs around a third of that, closer to a fourth in some years, and every ingredient in it is something I don't mind sitting on a shelf in a house with children in it. I want to be honest. This isn't the kind of savings that changes a family's whole month. It's not going to pay a bill. But over a handful of years, it adds up to a real amount, and you get something safer sitting under your sink the whole time you're saving it. I want to be honest about where this falls short, too, same as I've been about everything else. This handles everyday washing well. Sweat, dust, ordinary dirt, the regular grime of regular living. It does not carry the specially engineered enzymes that store detergents build in a laboratory specifically to break down set-in blood, grass stains, or heavy grease. For something like that, you treat the spot directly before it goes into the machine. Work a little extra soap right into the stain, let it sit a few minutes. Then wash as usual. There's another honest limitation worth naming, because I don't want anyone surprised by it. This mixture doesn't produce much of any scent at all once it's washed and dried. If you've grown used to your laundry smelling like a particular manufactured fragrance, this will feel different at first. Plain, in a way that might catch you off guard the first week or two. Some families add a few drops of a plain essential oil to the dry mixture if they miss having some scent. And that works fine, though it's an extra step, not something the base recipe needs. And I'll say the part about children one more time plainly, because it's the real reason we do things this way and not just the cheaper reason. Everything in this mixture, the soap, the washing soda, and the Epsom salt, sits at a level of safety where I don't lose sleep over it being in a house full of young ones. Washing soda is still something you'd want to keep them from eating by the handful, same as you would flour or any powdered kitchen ingredient. But it isn't the kind of substance that sends you rushing to call someone the moment a small hand gets into it. My youngest got into the bucket once, years back, before we'd moved it up onto a higher shelf, and beyond a bit of a mess on the washhouse floor, there was nothing to worry over. I can't say I'd feel the same if it had been a box of the other stuff. Think for a moment about who actually benefits from you never learning any of this. The company selling you that jug profits from a bottle that's mostly water, priced as if it were something rare. And the real cleverness of it is that it runs out every few weeks, and you're back at the store buying another one. A bucket that costs you around $22 and lasts a family most of a year isn't a business anybody can build an advertising budget around. Nobody's paying to remind you that a bag of Epsom salt and a box of washing soda sit quietly on a low shelf, doing nearly the same job as what you're carrying home in a heavy plastic jug, without the part of that jug that keeps you buying a new one every month. So here's what I'd ask you to actually do this week. Not just watch and move along. Pick up 3 bars of plain soap, a box of washing soda, and a bag of Epsom salt. Grate the bars, mix everything dry in a bowl, tip it into a bucket, and you're done in about 20 minutes. Try it on your next regular load. Nothing special, just the ordinary wash you'd already be doing anyway, and pay attention to how it comes out. Tell me down in the comments. Do you already have little ones or pets in your house that make you think twice about what's sitting under your sink? And if your family has a different way of handling hard water without borax, I'd genuinely like to hear it. I read every one of these, and it's the old ways you all share back with me that keep giving me something worth making the next video about. Walk past the jug this week and make your own instead. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.